Yeah.
Welcome
Hello.
back.
So I'm Ian.
I'm Steve.
So we're talking about being a good player socially. Etiquette.
Right. We'll talk about technical skills at a later date, but for now we're talking about what makes you a welcome player at the gaming table regardless of technical proficiency with the game.
So here's the final thing. Yesterday we talked about putting on a good appearance and being conscious. This is related to those things, but is different. Taking the initiative.
We don't mean taking the initiative away from the game master and organizer, although sometimes it might be important if they have reached a stalling point to push things into the next step. We're talking about taking the initiative as a player to engage with the game at the gaming table, and even away from it.
We talked when we were talking about GM's responsibilities, and in a previous video when we were talking about why we would use the system or not, about player engagement. This is directly related to player initiative. Players who take the initiative, 1, generate their own engagement regardless of what the GM is doing.
Right.
2, they help engage other players. And 3, they help the GM engage and help the GM have fun by reaching out to the GM to connect with what the GM is doing.
In a nutshell, one of the main ways to demonstrate and build player initiative is very simple. Hey, players, yes, you, the ones I'm looking at right now, do something. Not something frivolous, do something directly connected to either developing your character, developing another player's character, or forwarding the plot. Do it. Don't ask, can I do it? Don't ask, what do I know? Set out to do it. It's that simple.
Do ask what there is. There are a lot of questions that you should ask.
Absolutely.
Asking questions is core and key to having initiative. But don't ask overly general questions. Don't ask questions that show that you're not paying attention. Ask questions about specific things. Ask questions about specific characters, about specific objects or events that have been narrated, that have come up, and try to engage with them.
How will I know about these things? Well, if you're a conscious player, you will take notes or remember that these things exist. And as you find out more answers, write them down in your notes so that you can pursue them. There is no such thing as a useless detail if pursued.
Taking notes is where being conscious meets having initiative.
Right.
Because being conscious, you actually notice the detail. Having initiative, you thought to note it down so that you could pursue it when the GM has an opportunity to listen to your question.
Exactly. Similarly, look for connections. If you're in a scene, look for connections with other scenes. Or, at the very least, look for things which could, in future, connect with other things. This is part of being conscious, part of being aware, but really boils down to how can you pursue things if you don't remember what they are.
And having initiative also extends outside of the in-game actions. The things of initiative that we've said so far sort of cross over with the technical skills aspect, but it also crosses over into both consciousness and appearance, and especially in helping other players to develop those attributes.
After you've prepared your supplies, reach out to another player and ask if they need help as well.
If you know that you're going to be on time, reach out to other players and make sure that they know the time and day and have all the rides they need. Make sure that they have the supplies and... Sorry, go
That's
on.
okay. Once you have finished putting down your character's backstory, reach out to, first, the GM and ask if there's anything in the setting that you can tie in, and then, second, out to other players and ask if you can tie into theirs. Not always necessary, but always helpful. Don't be an old man Henderson who relied on the GM never reading their backstory to slip whatever they wanted in. Do be conscientious and tie yourself as closely as you can to the world the GM is playing in.
When you see other players disconnected at the gaming table, reach out to them and try to help them pay attention to what the group is doing and what the GM is narrating.
It should not be the GM's responsibility to say, somebody wake up, Hicks.
The GM is, of course, going to try and help out with this, but you as a player can also help.
The more the workload of being a socially conscious player is shared around the table between the player and the GM, the easier it is on everybody period.
So we're going to talk about technical skills as well in future videos, and we're going to talk about the responsibility to develop those skills as it relates to players and GMs. Thanks for sticking with us through our discussion of player and GM etiquette.
And before we sign off, I'm going to say it one more time. Everything we've talked about so far stems from a basic similar place: respect. If you do not respect someone, you should not be playing with them. If you cannot learn to respect them, maybe you should take a step back from a group because you can't. If they're not respecting you, a conversation needs to happen. Do keep it civil. Do not throw punches, please. That is generally legally actionable and probably unethical. But if respect is not there, there's really no point to have the game at all, ever. Please don't.
Boils down, as the saying has been said before, to the blunt way of putting it: Rule 1, don't be a tick. Tick?
Tick works.
Don't be a dick. Rule 2, that means you, dick.
So, having said that, we're signing off for now, and you'll see us again really soon.